Hello. Stop looking at things the same way and expect something new or expect change to happen because we keep doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes we've got to take a look at things with a fresh eye. And when we do, some pretty great opportunities can come out of it. And sometimes we get stuck looking at the same things over and over again. And we're missing out on opportunity that is actually at our door, waiting to come in, waiting for us, but we can't see past what we've always seen. So, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. Today, I want to share two stories that happened last week that basically boiled up to how do we look at things in a new way in order to grow and in order to take advantage of opportunities that are out there. And we don't always have to innovate, we don't always have to recreate the wheel. We just have to take a step back and look at things in a different way. And if I wasn't doing LinkedIn Lives, I wouldn't have this forced reflection process built into my life right now of what happened last week, what did I learn from last week, and what do I want to do differently going forward. So, for anybody who is listening to this, I would love to hear where you are dialing in from. I love to hear what cities and states everybody is in or what country. I know not too long ago I was on a podcast with a lady in Singapore, and I just thought it was pretty amazing to be connected with someone around the world. Same thing, I've had one of my favorite podcast guests, Oscar Tromboni, and he is in Australia, and he talks about the importance of listening and how listening is communicating. So, one of my favorite things from Oscar's podcast interview was he explained to us that we think at 900 words a minute. We can read at 400 words a minute, but we can only speak at 125 words a minute. So, how often are we actually listening to people who are still processing their thoughts, but they can't articulate it because they have so many things going on in their head? And in order to really grasp what that is that we're trying to be able to communicate, we have to have this forced reflection time. And part of these LinkedIn lives is building in this repetition, this continuation of reflecting and then being able to articulate what it is that I learned last week. And so I had two really great stories, and I just wanted to be able to share those with you. And before I jump into that, hello, Greenville. Thank you for being here. And I wanted to also share with you, I have an upcoming Business Vitality Masterclass Monday, May 22nd, 1:30 Eastern. It's only going to be for 90 minutes. And I'm going to be able to share some of the best practices that my clients are using in order to achieve measurable change, measurable leadership change. And it's seen by the stakeholders and the people around them. And we're able to use practical applications. So much like I'm talking about, if we can just reflect on what it is that we're doing, we can learn from that. And that's a very practical application. This is not rocket science. We're not going to Mars. We're just trying to get a little bit better every day. And we can do that if we build in certain disciplines and certain behaviors to be able to reflect in order to plan and be able to see how we want to respond differently going forward. So on Monday, May 22nd, I'll be teaching a business vitality masterclass, 90 minutes, starts at 1:30 Eastern, the exact same time as what we're doing today. And what we're going to be talking about are four main things. The first one is all about visioning and getting what you need from others, is the second. The third is about the mindset, and the third is about action planning. For anybody who knows me, you know I'm very biased towards action. And we can talk and talk and talk. And so we will talk and talk and talk. But then at the end, we're going to create an action plan of what it is that you want to do going forward. And I was speaking with some clients not too long ago, and we could all agree on one thing, which is there is no such thing as a one and done training. We do not come in and have a training and expect a miracle. We may expect a miracle, but very rarely after one training does that happen. And so we build in action planning, we build in accountability sessions, and that's where the true change is going to be able to happen. So, for those of you that are just tuning in, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. And I wanted to be able to share with you that we've got to stop looking at the same things the same way and expect change. It just doesn't happen that way. And so the first thing that comes to mind is a conversation I had this past week with a CEO named Mike Keating. He's with Norhart. The stories that he was able to share were fantastic. He's totally looking at the construction industry and flipping it upside down. He doesn't look like your normal construction industry guy. He was very, had this calming sense about him. And if you've ever built a house or if you've ever been on a job site, there is no calming sense that eludes on a construction site. But speaking with Mike, he had this inner presence, this inner work that you could see that he has put forth, and it's now paying out in ripples through the business and through the leaders that he's hiring and surrounding himself with. And it was just fantastic to listen to his story. And so the classic example of you can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And so he came into his family construction business and he realized he didn't want to do it the way it's always been done. And so I'm paraphrasing a lot of this. And when his interview comes out, I'll be sure to share it with you. It's also going to be posted on Spotify and Amazon, Apple, all those great places for the podcast. And it'll be under the podcast of Business Vitality. But Mike talks about how he came in with a fresh set of eyes. He didn't always want to do things the way they'd always been done. And he was able to share that, other industries have always tried to find efficiencies. And the problem that he is solving with his business is trying to solve for the affordable housing crisis that's in America. So, in order to solve for the affordable housing crisis that's in America, you've got to figure out how to reduce cost. You got to figure out how to become much more efficient than we ever have been in regards to housing. And if any of you have ever rented a house, owned a house, built a house, you understand the magnitude of the investment that is in housing. And for us to be able to have affordable housing is so vital to our business and the businesses that are around us. We need to have folks that can have affordable housing because when we go out to dinner, we need to be able to have folks that are there to take care of us inside the restaurant. We've got to be able to have these solutions for housing for these folks that are in our community that are supporting us, and we want to support them. And so to be able to provide affordable housing, safe and secure housing is just a great big problem that Mike and his team are solving. And so he had this idea. He said, what if we take best practices of other industries? For the past 60 years, people have been finding efficiencies in other industries. He said, what if we find the efficiencies that they have and then bring it into the construction business or construction industry and see if we can't figure out ways to streamline the work that we're doing in order to solve for the affordable housing crisis that's in America. And so, as he talked, he said the work that they've been able to do, they've been able to reduce the housing expenses by 20 and 30% just by taking best practices from other industries and applying them in the construction business. Which, for somebody to bring these new ideas into an established industry is going to be a little disruptive. It's not always going to be brand new rocket science every time that's going to be solving for problems in new ways. And so he talks about this, and he really has an aim to be able to reduce construction expenses by 50%. 50, to cut that in half is very significant. And what that means to the people that need the housing is even greater. I mean, the impact that you can create across the United States to help solve for the housing crisis is amazing. And so he's able to take best practices from other businesses and apply it to the construction business. He's been able to reduce housing prices, his expenses by 20 and 30%. He's got a goal, he thinks it's reasonable, of getting to 50%. And what he shared with me that was quite shocking was if you look at other industries like manufacturing, for the past 60 years, 6 decades, I went back and looked at my notes, for 60 years, efficiency has improved by 760% in other industries. Not in the construction industry, but in other industries like manufacturing. So, why can manufacturing and other industries improve by 760% in efficiencies, and housing and construction has only improved about 10% over the same time span? So, what Mike's doing is he's looking at the same problem that we've been having for decade after decade and applying best practices that have worked in other industries to really disrupt it in a way that benefits our community and our world that we're living in. It was pretty exciting to get to hear him speak. Again, not a traditional looking, construction worker, just very reflective As I spoke with him, I could tell that he has done so much inward leadership work and inward work. It was extremely admirable to be able to speak to him and to be able to just kind of hear his stories. I definitely could have him back on. But what he's doing is he's taking what's working somewhere else and he's applying it here. And he explained it to us. If a construction industry actually built cars, like a manufacturing plant builds cars, if that same process was used in the construction industry, in the car business, think about it. You would have one company that would come in and put on the windshield. You'd bring in another company that would come and put the tires on the car. You'd have another company that would come and put the steering wheel in the car. You'd have another company that would come in and paint the car. How inefficient is this? I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about it. They don't do it in the car industry, but why are we doing this in the construction industry? So he's really taking this very analytical, very thought provoking ideas and taking best practices from other industries and applying it into the construction. And already has been able to reduce costs 20 and 30%. I think it's fantastic. So the point of today's LinkedIn Live is, how do we stop looking at things in the exact same way and expect that we're going to get change out of it? So the irony behind that is, I had another conversation with another leader. And before I jump into that one, which again is talking about how do we stop looking at things the same way and expecting change? But before we jump into that, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. Business Vitality's podcast is all about sharing best practices from other leaders, other CEOs, C suite leaders, business owners, and to be able to pay it forward. I've had a ton of people that have invested in me, and I feel like it's my time in order to pay it forward and share with others and share these best practices. So some of the best folks that are out there, they're sharing their stories, they're sharing what works, they're sharing their failures. And truly, it's not a failure if you're able to learn from it. So, we're sharing these best practices on the Business Vitality podcast. And in 2 Mondays on May the 22nd, I'm going to host a Business Vitality Masterclass. It's going to be the same time, 1:30 Eastern. It's only going to be for 90 minutes. We're going to talk about 4 different topics. These are the topics that I'm using with my clients for them to continue to grow and to be able to create the change that they're ready for. We're going to talk about visioning. We're going to talk about getting what you need from others. We're going to talk about mindset, and we're also going to talk about action planning. And so during this Business Vitality Mastermind class on Monday, May 22nd at 1:30 Eastern on LinkedIn Live, we're going to talk about these 4 topics. And if you know me, you know I'm biased towards action. So we can talk, but we're going to create a plan. And if the pain of same hurts enough, it hurts more than the pain of change, then my money's on you. You're willing to create the change that you know you're ready for. So as we're talking, and we're talking today about, why are we need to stop looking at things the same way and expect different results or expect change. I had another conversation last week. The first one was with Mike. The second one was with Ashley Connell. She has a company called The Prowess Project. She recorded our call. It's on YouTube, so I guested on her show. And I met her a few weeks ago. I actually had her on my podcast and was really impressed with the work that she's doing. So she created the Prowess Project. And for all of you who are looking, where in the world can I go hire amazing, talented people who know how to get stuff done? This is the woman. Ashley Connell with Prowess Project is the person who is putting these overly educated, incredibly smart people back into the workforce. Her goal is to get 5,000 people back into the workforce. For one reason or another, they stepped away for a few years, mainly for childcare or to be able to take care of an elderly parent. And now they're coming back into the workforce. These people have numerous degrees. These people are CPAs, they're operational executives. You think about big 4 accounting firms, they don't want to work 80 hours anymore. They just want to work 30 hours a week. But my money is on them. They will deliver 40 and 50 hours worth of work in 30 hours. I've met these people. We've probably all met these people that are uberly talented. And they're coming from a world where they were paid for butts and seats. And if you want to think about things in a different way, if you truly are after just, I need the results, I think reaching out to Ashley Connell with the Prowess Project is worth your time to see how these people are coming back into the workforce. They're used to working a crazy amount of hours. They're used to getting results. They're multiple they're managing multiple households. They come into work, they don't have a whole lot of time. And isn't the old saying true about how we can take as long or as little as we allow ourselves? And if you only have 20 hours a week to get a 40-hour a week job done, if you're a good person who knows how to do this, which if you're watching, you probably are one of those people, you know how to get 40 hours worth of work done in 20 hours, especially if you're used to working for some of these big four, accounting firms that are out there. So if you're looking to find some uberly talented, smart people coming back into the workforce, the Prowess Project is a great place to be able to start. So as I talk to her, she's really flipping this stuff upside down because we've all been raised, or at least I was raised to believe you've got to work from 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You work 30, 40 years and that's it. And what she's done is she's taken these very talented, highly self motivated people and introducing them back into the workforce, which needs incredibly talented people, and is getting them retrained and re ready to re enter. So then they are being able to deliver the results for you. So as we talked, she had me on her YouTube channel and we got to talk about how just to up level your career. And if you know a little bit about me, I work with teams and individuals, businesses, and we work to create measurable leadership change. We do that using practical applications and it's creating accelerated results. So sometimes we just have to get down to practical applications. We got to figure out what's working somewhere else and bring it in. We cannot overcomplicate things. We've got to keep it simple. And when we do, we boil it down to these two or three things that we can focus on with intention deliberately over a course of period of time, we're able to create measured results. And so when Ashley and I spoke and she interviewed me, we had a good time and we talked about, some different things about what can continue to drive your career. Ashley talks about OBMs, and that's called an online business manager. And what I learned about that is I have one myself and I just didn't realize it. I've got a lady who's behind the scenes who manages my business for me. She manages the day to day. She keeps me alive. I mean, anytime I need help, support, I need to brainstorm, she's there. And so, how often do we wish we had somebody who can just help create the invoices, who can help be able to create the content, who can just help us problem solve solutions? And so an OBM or an online business manager might be something that can help create efficiencies for you. These are folks with extensive skill sets who can come in and be able to provide that little bit of added support that you may or may not have realized that you needed. And so when we're talking about this OBM role and how do they keep growing themselves and stretching themselves and continuing to learn, one of the things we talked about was how do you get in the room where the decisions are being made? And you don't have to physically be in the room, as we've proven through COVID. We don't have to be in the room, but how do you begin to be included in some of these conversations? And this is something that's been coming up with the coaching work that I'm doing. People know that you do a good job, but like, how do you get in the room when those decisions are being made? So we talked about that a little bit on Ashley's YouTube channel. We also talked about, how do you just keep doing this and how do you continue to win? And really, it's quite simple and it's not always easy, like Marshall Goldsmith likes to say, my mentor likes to say. It's simple, it's not easy. And so while I spoke with Ashley at her YouTube channel, I talked about how you just have to keep showing up. You've got to keep showing up. Here I am, month 5, LinkedIn Lives. I'm just going to keep showing up. I'm going to be consistent. And I have found over a course of 25 years of working, if you are consistently showing up and consistently providing value, you will consistently win. And I think this holds true for the work that we're doing, for the work that you're doing. If you are consistently showing up, consistently giving value to those around you, you will continue to win. One other thing that Ashley and I talked about on her YouTube channel called Prowess Project was how do we negotiate intentionally? Because if we're not going to negotiate for this new work project that could be coming in and we're not compensated for it intentionally, we need to figure out how to do that, how to take on the additional workload and realize, do we need to have more resources? How do we show the ROI of this project coming in and if I need someone else to support me? Now, don't get this bloody and not blurry. We don't want to get this blurry or muddied up, but we want to think about, are you just asking to have an extra person? Or are you asking because it really does provide extra value? You've got to figure out how to show that extra value if you're going to ask for that extra person. But if you're intentional with your negotiation, you can show how this is going to ripple out and this is going to create this long term impact. More than likely, they're going to support you if you're paying forward the good work that you're doing. And then when the event does come up that you need to hold your ground and then you need to have added resources, how do you negotiate intentionally? So we talked about that. We also talked about how, if you don't negotiate with intention, there may be a bitterness that's going to creep in because you're going to get down the road and you're going to realize that you feel like you're being taken advantage of. And so, like, how do you manage that? How do you manage those emotions? And so, we talked about that on the Prowess Project with Ashley Connell. The point behind this is the conversation I had with Ashley, the conversation that I had with Mike. It both came back to the same topic. We have got to stop looking at things the same way and expecting change. My name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host for Business Vitality. We are having an upcoming mastermind class the week of May 22nd. It's actually going to be a 1-day, 90-minute class. We're going to cover visioning, getting what you need from others, mindset, and action planning. And it'll be here on LinkedIn Live. So all you need to do is tune in. I would love for you to register ahead of time. You can go to my page, it'll show the event, and you can register there. So, as I begin to kind of close this out, I want to share with you, I come from a very traditional corporate banking background, but these two conversations that we talked about, the one with Mike and the one with Ashley, have one thing in common. That one thing is people are doing things in new ways to get bigger, better results. And so I want to challenge you. How are you looking at things that you have always seen? How do you look at that in a new way? How do you look at that in a new light? And last week I took a walk in the neighborhood and I was doing a walking meditation. So I'm walking and then it's a guided meditation for me just to be able to pay attention and to be present and to try to get my brain back into being present and not chasing everything and chasing all my thoughts. And that something ironic happened. I'm on this walk. I'm coming down this path and there's a deer and the deer's coming at me. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, except it's just not going away. It literally is coming right at me. And this is a little odd because I have my lab with me and she's like looking at me and looking at the deer, like, what are we doing? And so I see this deer coming at me. And then I'm like, I should get my phone out and take a picture. Meanwhile, I have a walking meditation going on in my ear pods. I got a dog that's probably wants to go play with this deer, and I have a deer coming at me. And all I can think about is, I should take a picture of this. So here I am trying to work on being present and unplugged. And what happens is I want to reach for my phone and plug back in and tune out my earbuds that are telling me to take a deep breath and look at the nature and enjoy the presence that I was in. So anyway, the deer eventually got close enough to said, oh, wait a minute, let me jump this fence and go find my friends. But for a minute there, I thought, here I am. I'm doing a great job. I'm unplugged. I'm just kind of going for a walk. The deer comes at me, and I can't help but think about how I need to pick up my phone and take a picture. So much for unplugging. But what are we doing? The question is, what are we doing that allows us to look at things in a different way? For me, I wanted to look at things in a new way, so I took a walking guided meditation walk. It was not a success. It was sort of a failure because I ended up pulling out my phone and taking a picture, and it was, not so much of being present. It was more of me, oh, let me take a picture and pull my phone back out, which defeats the purpose of unplugging. So even though I am far from perfect at any of this stuff, I am working to find ways to look at things in new light. And maybe if I wasn't paying attention, I would never have seen the deer in the first place. So maybe I need to reframe it that way, that I was able to unplug long enough to be able to see a deer coming at me down this road. And it's pretty cool to get to see nature and the wildlife coming at you, and just it was just very in the moment. So what are we doing? What are you doing right now in order to appreciate what's happening around you? And how do you take a step back and reflect on it? because we've got to stop looking at things in the same way and expect for change to happen. And until we take that time to pause, until we take that time to reflect, we're not going to be able to pay it forward in the way that we intentionally want to. So, if you're curious about wanting to learn more about this, I would love for you to be able to reach out. I work with businesses, leaders, teams, and individuals to help create change. And it may be in the form of measurable leadership change. It may be that you just need a fresh set of eyes. We've done a ton of work around that. I think I've spent 2 decades just looking at things from a new eyes perspective. And we use practical applications to create the change. And when we use practical applications, we're not just creating change, we're actually accelerating the results. And I have 4 decades of proven training that has been poured into me of proven frameworks that allow me to pay it forward in a very efficient way for you or for anybody else who may be interested. So, if you're intrigued, you want to learn a little bit more about this work, about creating change, about taking a step back, about being present, and you've got leaders on your team that you want to grow, please reach out to me, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what's working and what's not working. And again, I just want to remind you that on Monday, May 22nd, we're going to have a Business Vitality Masterclass, 1:30 Eastern, and it's going to be for 90 minutes. And we're going to talk about visioning, getting what you need from others, mindset, and action planning. I would love for you to sign up ahead of time. Again, my name is Catherine Cantey. I'm an executive coach and a podcast host of Business Vitality. And I would love to hear from you if any of this resonated. And I appreciate you being here. And I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Thanks so much.